guys, it is April from Getting Hygge With It. Today I wanted to share with you two of my new very favorite thrillers. Now usually with thrillers I can be a little bit critical, I would say. I'm not easily blown away, I guess, and I find some thrillers can use the same kind of tropes and same kinds of storylines, and I am so happy to announce that these two thrillers blew me away. So let's get into it. So the first book I wanted to talk to you about is Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. Now Dennis Lehane is a very well-known author. He wrote Mystic River and he wrote Shutter Island. Those are his most popular, I would say. And I've never read him before at all. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I stumbled upon this. It's a new release. I think it was released in either May or June, I would say, and it's so good. It follows Rachel Child, and she is a journalist, and one day while she's on camera, she has a bit of a meltdown. She's covering a story in Haiti and she just kind of loses it on camera, and it's live and there's no going back, and her career's kind of ruined. So she becomes a bit of a shut-in and she just stays at home, and she has extreme anxiety, like agoraphobia and that kind of thing, and she just can't leave. So the very first chapter, and I'm not giving anything away, it's like the prologue essentially. She is on a boat and she has just killed her husband, who seems like an awesome guy, and you don't understand why in the world she would kill her husband. And that is what you find out in this book. So one thing that I found really interesting about this book is that it's almost like two books in one. Like when I first started reading this, I had read the blurb on the back about how she'd had like this meltdown and extreme anxiety and stuff, and then I started to read the book and I was like, this is not anything like that. So the very beginning of the book is her starting off her journalism career and her trying to actually track down her biological father, who she only knew as a very, very small child. So the first half of the book really kind of plays out as more of a family drama. And then the second half of the book is when the thriller aspect really starts to unfold, and it is a high speed, high intensity, just kind of a go, go, go kind of thriller all of a sudden. So in this half of the thriller, she meets her second husband, and her second husband is not exactly who she thinks that he is, and there are many secrets that she's uncovering. She is battling her anxiety. She's trying to find out the secrets that her husband is holding, even though she's got this kind of debilitating anxiety, and she's able to work through that, you know? I think that would probably be the main criticism of people, that they started the book and they looked at the blurb on the back and they were like, I'm in for that story, and then they start reading it and they're like, what's this about a dad? Why are we following her, you know, creating her journalism career? And I actually really liked that, because what that allowed me to do was have some really strong feelings for Rachel and understand the way that her mind works. And so the first portion of the book really lends itself to the second, because then you understand why she acts certain ways in the second half of the book. So I really liked that personally. I liked that character development that you got, and it's still, you know, intense and fast-paced for that first portion. So I was happy with that. And of course that second half is just so gripping. Like I could not stop reading. It was so good. I also thought the writing was great. There was so much backstory to all of these characters. They were so fleshed out, and I find that's really, really lacking in so many thrillers. Just because you've got tons of twists doesn't mean that you've made the reader actually care for any of these characters and the twists that happen to them. And I really found that Dennis Lehane was able to make me really care about Rachel. So I loved that. It also really read like a movie. Like, it's no wonder that most of Dennis Lehane's books seem to be turned into movies, because they read that way. So I know that this will be turned to screen, and I'm so excited for that. If you haven't already picked up Since We Fell, or if it's not on your TBR yet, I think it should be. So the second book I wanted to talk to you about is Final Girls by Riley Sager. Now, this follows our main character named Quincy Carpenter, and Quincy has survived like a mass murder. All of her friends were murdered at this one cabin, and she is the lone survivor of that murder. And she has become known as one of the final girls. And there are two others. There is Lisa and Samantha, who have, survived their own horror stories, essentially. And they kind of form this interesting friendship. It's not a friendship where you like sit down together and have tea or something and go over stuff, but it's one of those things where they kind of just look out for each other. So they formed this friendship, and then all of a sudden, one of the final girls is killed. She dies, and you're trying to find out, did she die of her own volition? Was she killed? What is happening to the final girl? Now, what I loved about this book was how refreshing it was in comparison to other thrillers. Like, this is an ode to horror movies. If you liked Scream and if you liked the Halloween series, you're going to like this. Like, I really think that was what Riley Sager was kind of trying to do here, and he did it amazingly well. I loved every second of it. And it was funny, after I finished reading this, I was talking with Rachel over at Shades of Orange. If you haven't already subscribed to her channel, you really should. She's so great, and she reads tons of thrillers as well. So anyway, she and I were talking, and she mentioned that like a lot of the time it seems that thrillers are just trying to be the next Gone Girl or the next Girl on the Train. And she was saying, and I totally agree with her, like, we've already read those. I don't need to read another Gone Girl. Like, I read that, and I don't want to read the same thing again. I want something fresh. And this is what Final Girls is. It's totally fresh. It's totally different. I feel like there needs to be this memo sent out to all thriller authors to just say, please stop comparing yourself to other thrillers and just do you, and create something fun and different, because that's what we want, is something fun and different. That said, that doesn't mean that you're not getting tons of twists and turns along the way. This was chock full of them, and I loved them so much. One of the things that you're doing in this book is you're discovering what actually happened to all of these final girls. Like, you know that they've survived these crazy mass murders, but what happened at those murders? You find out for all of them. And with Quincy doesn't remember what happened to her because she kind of blocked it out. It was so devastating to her that she blocked it out, and she woke up in hospital and didn't know, and she hasn't known since. And so of course you are unraveling that in this book. Now, that said, this was absolutely a 5-star read, and as was Since We Fell, but there were little tiny things that I wanted a little bit more of from this book. So there were a few details that I thought they could have played with a little bit more. There's some repetitive things that come up that I thought could have more meaning. There were also some sex scenes in here that were really disgusting to me. Like, I don't like romance novels at all, and you know, oh, he stroked the small of her back and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, thank you. And there were some of those in here. And I wish that there wasn't any because it just didn't need it. And then I also really wanted a bit more character development. So in Since We Fell, there was so much character development. I knew all of the ins and outs of Rachel. And here, Quincy is kind of like, she's a final girl and now she's moving on with her life and she bakes. She has a little baking blog. And that's not enough for me. However, I loved Final Girl so much it totally got 5 stars. It's one of the most refreshing thrillers I've read in a long time, and I think it's coming out in mid-July. So keep your eyes peeled. It is more than worth picking up. And here's another little interesting thing that I found about Final Girl. So Riley Sager is actually a pen name for someone else, and we don't know who that author is, but that author has a whole laundry list of books that he or she has already written, and I am desperate to know who Riley Sager's other pen name is so that I can go and read all of those, because this was that good. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video, and I hope you pick these up. Let me know in the comments below if you have read either of these or you plan to read either of these, and let me know what the most refreshing thriller was to you, because I'm always out looking for more thrillers that are gonna wow me. So let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!